radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
All right. Fade to Black. Bespoke Radio. For the masses. Yeah, man. How you doing? Today is Tuesday, December 15th, 2020. 350 days into the new year, only 16 days left, only 10 days until Christmas. Yeah, man. We are live from a bunker somewhere in the middle of beautiful downtown Burbank, California, and I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? How you doing? I'm excited. Tonight, been waiting for this show. Very special guest, John Burroughs is here. Live from the UK, his co-author, James Worrow, will join us to announce their new book, Weaponisation of an Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon, the Rendlesham Forest UAP Incident 40 years later. The book releases tomorrow. The links for everything to pre-order the book, it's being released in the Kindle version first. You can go and click on the links over at jimmychurchradio.com, take you straight there. I have read the book now. I was just telling John, I'm on my third read through on this amazing book. Very, very important book. And we'll be discussing that all night tonight on the show. So we'll get to all of that at the bottom of the hour. John will be joining us. And then at the top of the hour, live from the United Kingdom, James Worrow joins the show. Okay? Tomorrow night, Billy Carson is here. And his new book, which is Woke Doesn't Mean Broke, was published last week. It is now in full release. The links to that book are over at jimmychurchradio.com as well. Tomorrow night, Billy Carson is here. Thursday night is another Fader night with open lines all night long. Now, welcome to everybody. This is a very important show tonight. I want to say hello to everybody on YouTube, Facebook, the Bunker Cam. Welcome. Of course, TalkStream Live, United Broadcasting Network, UBN. Everybody over on Spreaker. We have the chat rooms open at Spreaker, and of course everybody's probably commenting away right now over on Facebook and YouTube. All right, you can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. All right, at JChurchRadio. Hashtag F2B is the sandbox, and everything is in full motion over on Twitter. Hashtag F2BQ is Fade to Black Questions. If you do have questions tonight for John Burroughs, hashtag F2BQ is where to get that done. And there you go. All right. Email is Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. A couple of quick comments. Number one, I'm feeling a little bit better. I think today I'm at about 55%. Am I going to get to 60%? Maybe tomorrow. But there you go. And a very special announcement that I just want to get out there and get public right now. Our niece and nephew, Kev and Diana, are at the hospital tonight, bringing our newest member to our family. I cannot believe this is going down during the show. And this is the thing. You know, normally this is such a great moment, right? And the whole family, the show would have been canceled tonight. That's it. You know, we're all going to get together over at the hospital and celebrate. And we can't do that. It's COVID. And hospital shut down. There's no action going on tonight. But what a great, glorious evening for us. Our family is celebrating. And congratulations, Diana and Kev. I don't have any updates yet, though. And maybe we will have something during the show tonight. Very excited about that. Okay. All right, let's get to the breaking news. Are you ready? The 500-meter aperture spherical telescope known as FAST, located in Pingtang, Guizhou Province, China, the only significant instrument of its kind after the collapse of the Puerto Rico Arecibo telescope earlier this month, is about to open its doors for foreign astronomers to use, hoping to attract the world's top scientific talent. The world's second largest radio telescope, the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico, was destroyed when its suspended 900-ton receiver platform came loose and plunged 450 feet onto the radio dish below. Work on the FAST began in 2011, and it started full-time operations back in January of this year, working mainly to capture the radio signals emitted by celestial bodies, in particular pulsars, rapidly rotating dead stars. The 500-meter giant satellite dish is easily the world's largest, covering an area of 30 football fields and costing $175 million to build. That is great news. Japanese scientists have gotten their first look inside the sample capsule of the Hayabusa 2 spacecraft. Now, the Hayabusa 2 spacecraft launched in 2014, bound for a near-Earth asteroid called Ryugu. Now, the mission arrived at Ryugu in 2018 and spent about a year and a half observing and sampling the asteroid before leaving last year to deposit its sample capsule in Earth's atmosphere. On December 5th, that capsule landed in an area of Australia, and scientists with the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, which runs the mission, then flew the capsule to Japan. Yesterday, mission personnel got their first look inside of the capsule. Now, during one of those sampling attempts, the spacecraft grabbed rocks from the asteroid's surface. During the second mission, it shot a copper bullet into the asteroid to uncover subsurface material. Now, currently, JAXA, the Japanese Space Agency, has not announced when the scientists will begin analyzing the asteroid evidence, but of course I will bring it to you right here on Fade to Black when we get news of everything. Now, after more than 5 years, after being acquired by Twitter before it officially launched, Periscope is shutting down. Twitter will discontinue Periscope as a separate mobile app by March 2021. Most of the app's live streaming capabilities have been added to Twitter as features, and streams that were shared on Twitter will continue to be available for replay. Users can download an archive of their data and content before Periscope goes off the App Store next March. This isn't the first video service Twitter has acquired and drop-kicked, by the way. The company also bought Vine. a short video app in 2012 before shutting it down in 2017. Let's get this show cracking. Happy birthday to today, Don Johnson. Don Johnson today is 71 years old. Drummer Dave Clark of the Dave Clark 5 today is 81 years old. Glad all over. That's right. Didn't Quiet Riot, I think, did a version of Glad All Over. It was pretty good. Drummer Carmine Appice today is 74. I actually drum teched for Carmine. Yeah, one show. I did. He offered me a gig, too. He's like, man, you're really good. I go, dude, I'm not a drum tech. I was just hired for this one show. That was pretty cool. Carmine Appice today, 74 years old. The Clash OG bassist Paul Simonon today is 65 years old. All right. On this day in history, OTD, 1944, legendary bandleader Glenn Miller disappears over the English Channel while en route to France to a performance for American troops that had recently helped to liberate Paris. And you got to remember, at that time, Glenn Miller was probably the biggest star in the world. That was an extremely tragic day in 1944. Fate or fact? Check this out. Before becoming the first president of Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh worked as a cook at the Parker House Hotel in Boston, right here in the United States of America. He was making Boston cream pies and the Parker House roll, both of which were invented there. That's right. Oh, man. Yeah. Don't ask me where I get this stuff, but that is your fate or fact for today. Well, tonight, John Burroughs is here. He's got a new book out. He co-authored with James Worrow. John is going to be with us at the bottom of the hour. And then at the top of the hour, live from the United Kingdom, James Worrow is going to join the show. This is a very important show tonight and a very important book. And it is going to release via Kindle edition tomorrow, December 16th. And then also tomorrow, Billy Carson joins us. His new book was published last week, Woke Doesn't Mean Broke. Thursday is another Fader night with open lines all night long. Now, right now, I'm in a good mood. Congratulations to Diana and Kev, and I hope to have an announcement sometime before the end of the show. And with that, I'm going to hit this River Moon coffee. rivermooncoffee.com. The links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. Use that promo code F2BBLEND. Yeah, it's Doc. Man, I love that coffee. The best coffee in the world. All right. Here we are. And I can't believe that I'm saying this, but we are coming up on the 40th anniversary of the Rendlesham Forest Incident. It's hard to believe. Nearly 40 years have passed since those now famous days of December 26th through the 28th, 1980. Now, as a member of the media, radio and talk show host, TV and film, I'm often asked about what are the most important UFO cases and or incidents on record. I'm asked this all the time, and I've compiled my list over the years, and I've presented them, but always at the top of that list, Rendlesham Forest. This subject is important for anyone to inquire about, and I get it, because they have their own lists too. You know, they're looking for confirmation to their own research and theories. And every time I've answered this question in public and private, I've answered the number one case is Rendlesham, RFI. I've never hesitated with this response. And the reasons are solid and fact-based. Now, I'll start with this. Back in 1994, 1995, when the internet was just getting its foothold around the world, I was able to listen to the original halt tapes for the first time. Mesmerized. I spent many hours, days, analyzing every word through both radio, audio, and transcriptions. I was fixated. I knew that this was huge because it wasn't from someone in their backyard, these tapes. No, this was the United States Air Force. This was a big deal. The RFI was real. At that time, I had heard about RFI. I knew a little bit about the incident. I had read most of the material that had been published or what was available. It was the halt tapes where my journey truly started. And here I am, 25 years later, and my journey continues. The question is, why would RFI rate as number one? And the answer is simple. The RFI is a modern event. All of the eyewitnesses are alive and can be interviewed. The documentation is current. There is the military element. There is the political element and the civilian side. RFI is not a distant memory from the past where everything is black and white and a little fuzzy. In fact, RFI is the exact opposite. It's in full living color. It's today. It is now. It is a matter of record that I have personally interviewed most of the witnesses, the players, and the personalities, both in public and on the air and in private, lengthy phone calls. I've done all of this over the years. All of the broadcast conversations are available for review online for free in the interest of full disclosure for the public. It is through these various interviews that I, along with my audience, have learned so much about Rendlesham. And my conclusion? Well, something happened that can't be dismissed with simple explanations like it was a lighthouse, hallucinations, or a prank. Every eyewitness that I have spoken with has had the events laid out pretty straight, although there are slight differences in their memories that can be and should be expected. I'm not sure at this point how many shows I have done with John Burroughs. I've never counted. I'm not sure about how many hours that we have logged on the phone over the years, but I've said this many times. To be able to question John as an eyewitness to one of the most important events in history is both an honor and seriously important. We have an opportunity as an audience to hear from someone who was there. John's words, his memories, and emotions don't come second or third hand. John Burroughs was both a witness and a participant in the Rendlesham Forest Incident. This fact cannot be stressed enough. Back in 1995, I started to compile mental notes and questions that I would ask of everyone involved in the forest that night. And not knowing at that time that I would actually be in a position to one day ask them. As of now, I think I have asked most of the questions, but more questions are added to this list frequently, and my investigation continues, along with all of you. Now, the facts are clear. Something happened in, above, and around Rendlesham Forest, the Bentwaters Woodbridge bases. And there has been a massive cover-up to hide the truth from the public. This much is known and is very transparent. But another question is, why? This book that is going to be released tomorrow will help clarify much of what you and I have been wondering. But it also reveals new information never presented before. The contributors, along with John, show us how far and wide RFI goes down and continues all the way through to today. So what did John and others witness that night? Was it a craft from not of our earth? To be blunt, the answer is possibly. Was it ours? Possibly. Were they time travelers from the future coming back to visit us? Possibly. Was it a prank or a hoax? Probably not. What we can do as a community is look at all of the facts, the eyewitnesses, the testimony, the new evidence, and push everything to the center of the table to see what we've got. And right now, we have a lot. We have got piles of it. Now, remember the last interview that I did with John. Okay? And when I was finished, I announced to everybody, I said, there you have it. The best and last interview I'll ever have to do with John Burroughs. And at that time, I meant it. But I couldn't have been more wrong. The best and the last with John Burroughs has yet to come. And this new book is just the start of the end game. Now, that's the foreword that I've written for this book. I mentioned to John today, and we are going to go through all of this tonight, that I have now read this book 3 times. And for me, as a researcher that has been looking into this case as deep as I can for over 25 years, this book has blown my mind. Now, the book is presented in 2 parts. Tonight, during the show, I'm going to refrain from spoilers. I'm going to do my best. Some of that has got to happen in the conversation, and I get that. That's not the intention of tonight. But I'm going to stress with all of you, for me, I have learned so much. The book is done in 2 parts. It is a complete timeline of the events going through the 26th through the 28th. I am completely blown away by all of the new information that is presented here. We're going to talk to John about that. The second half of the book are the revelations that have happened since. And we will be talking with James Worrow tonight about all of that. And how it is presented here, it's so important for all of us to go and read the book. You've got to go and do it. It is comprehensive. The names, the dates, the times, and everybody involved. When you see it and it is presented like it is here, a big shout out to Ronnie Dugdale. I know that he is listening now live from the United Kingdom, and I will have Ronnie on the show next week to go through everything completely. The names, the dates, and the way that it is laid out, it's a page turner and it's mind-blowing. All right, so I need to stress all of that. The book is an important one. And for somebody like me, and for me to be able to say to John, and now I did this last month, I did this 2 weeks ago, and I said it again today. For me to be in the position that I am in, where I have interviewed everybody, I thought that I knew it all. And here I find myself going through this book 3 times now, page for page, realizing that I don't know it all. And I feel like I am visiting this for the very first time. And that has not happened to me much in my life. It's an extraordinary book. So with that, everybody sit right there, be patient. When I come back after this short break, and John Burroughs will join us. Want to remind everybody that at the top of the hour, live from the United Kingdom, his co-author James Worrow joins us. Very important show tonight. And then tomorrow night, Billy Carson is here to discuss his new book, Woke Doesn't Mean Broke. With that, I am going to take a quick short break. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. So excited about this evening. John Burroughs is here. The book is called Weaponisation of an Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon, the Rendlesham Forest UAP Incident 40 years later. The links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. You can follow me on Twitter at jchurchradio. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. On the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. Stay with me. I'll be right back.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on jimmychurchradio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. Introducing the Game Changer blend from River Moon Coffee that delivers a customized blend made specifically for the Fadernauts. If the game is rigged, change the game. It's a bolder cup with some bite. Game Changer is the coffee of choice for those that prefer an organic dark roast that is slightly lighter and milder, but it's still dark. With wild notes of pecans and chocolate with a rich, balanced, full-bodied cup that is roasted to perfection for a great coffee to start your day, as an after-dinner coffee or anywhere in between. Artisan, small batch roasted to perfection. USDA certified organic, all River Moon coffee is freshly roasted and packaged in the USA. Just go to rivermooncoffee.com or click on the banners over on our site and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. rivermooncoffee.com. Go Beckley Teppy.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRAradio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, folks. It's troubling times, and fear is pushing emotions, which in turn pushes health the wrong direction. Do you ever get an ache because life is uneasy? Try Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea works on your digestive tract, helping to move food through quicker and comfortably so your health is spot on. Life Change Tea may not help with world issues, but it will help with your digestive issues. A glass a day helps keep the intruders away. So, change your life today. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. If your health game is off, get on by ordering Life Change Tea. Getthetea.com. And while you're on our site, look around at the great non-GMO organic supplements. And if you're a sales shopper, go to our specials page and see what's for you. I've been drinking the tea for 12 years and I'm sure glad for its health benefits. Again, that's getthetea.com. Getthetea.com. The tea that makes you go.
Permanent industrial glue impossible to remove? Not anymore, because Handyman Formula by D-Bond is a patented chemical adhesive remover. It's used in the building and home maintenance industry, but now it's available for your home use, for your DIY projects. Unglue stickers, silicone rubber, labels, price tags, flex tape, weather stripping, carpet glue, wood glue, liquid nails, even 3M 5200. And it dissolves graffiti. Yeah, graffiti. Handyman Formula by D-Bond works, and it's safe to use on most surfaces. No need to call a professional. Don't get out the pliers and blowtorch. Just apply a little Handyman Formula by D-Bond and wait 90 seconds, then quickly and easily pull the items apart. Get unstuck. Visit debondhandymanformula.com. That's debondhandymanformula.com or call 561-575-4200. Handyman Formula by Debond.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your Jimmy Church. Tonight, John Burroughs is here. He's here to announce the release of his new book, Weaponisation of an Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon, co-authored with James Worrow. James will be with us at the top of the hour as we approach the 40th anniversary of the Rendlesham Forest Incident. The book is available for Kindle version pre-order today, and the release is tomorrow, December 16th, 2020. John entered the United States Air Force in 1979, served at 27 years, both in active and reserve. He is currently USAFR retired from the United States Air Force Reserve. He had several assignments throughout his Air Force career. Some of these assignments were at Luke Air Force Base, Osan Air Force Base, Grissom Air Force Base, Castle Air Force Base, with the reserve assignments at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base Prime Beef, Williams Air Force Base, Reese Air Force Base, and Luke Air Force Base as IMA. He has been on many deployments from Italy to the Middle East. Most notable assignment, though, began in 1979 when John was assigned as a security police law enforcement patrolman at RAF Bentwaters, England. I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black, John Burroughs. John, good evening, man. How are you? Oh,
better than you are right now, Jimmy.
Yeah, I'm trying to get through it, man. How's the family? You guys being safe?
Yeah, we're being as safe as we can.
Yeah, it's good to hear your voice, though. And, John, you know, this is the thing. You and I have discussed over the years RFI, and each show got better than the last. There's no doubt about it. And I always felt like the last one that we did was always the best. I didn't expect this show tonight. And the first question out of the gate has to be the obvious one. Why another book on Rendlesham from you or anybody else? What's the importance of doing this now?
Well, a lot of things have happened even since the last book, Encounters, as far as what's happened to me, because I got my settlement after Encounters was written and published, okay, through the government. You know, a lot of the stuff that was going on during the book itself that was written, you know, it happened towards the end, so it was too late to put it in the book as far as the government, you know, changing my DD 4214, keeping my my medical records classified and stuff like that. So in this book, the lady that handled it for Senator McCain's office, she does a detailed account of what she went through to get my settlement from the government. The lawyer that was involved, you know, as far as a lot of the stuff took place after that book was written, there was a lot more too that took place as far as the people showing up and, you know, the involvement with the government itself. So that was part of it. The other part was a lot of research from James Worrow on the technology that was in the area. And then there's another guy that came down in an investigation in the area, which is in the book about what was there, what we could have experienced and stuff. And interesting enough, Colonel Halt, after reading that report, had a lot of agreement to what was said by this guy. And then you had the part of my final summarization of how it all culminated, to include the fact that a lot of the stuff that I could talk about now, I never thought I could talk about because of the people that came in. It was kind of hard. It was going to be hard to prove it until they actually opened up themselves prior to me having to say anything.
Now, there's so much to discuss, but let me ask you this. The account publicly here in the book from McCain's office about the chain of events was something that really opened up my eyes. And it was, although the word I want to use is comprehensive because most people haven't read any of this before, but it was almost heartbreaking too as well. It was very heartfelt. And when you saw that section of the book come through, did you have to relive those moments? Because obviously she and the rest of McCain's office got connected with this from an emotional side too as well.
Well, yeah, no doubt, because, she describes at the beginning when I kind of approached her, because I'd already dealt with Senator Kyle's office on this, started with them, and then he retired. And it was a fine line, because you walked in and you had to be real careful how you said it, because UFOs were kind of one of those things that are fringes, and, coming in and walking in and saying, hey, I was injured, this was what went on. And it took a while, but Kyle's office was the staffer that was working on it, realized my records were locked down and they were classified. But then he retired and they couldn't get any further, and then Senator McCain got into it. But that's when it really expanded with the DD-4214, when they denied me even being in the Air Force when the event took place, and all the things that she had to do on the phone. And it goes into detail in the book, trying to build a case and a case file. And then they pulled the plug back when we thought we had an agreement. And then an IG complaint was registered through the VA, which was a big deal, and all the stuff that went down. But yeah, it was, because it was very frustrating, and believe it or not, Bernie Sanders was involved in it, but he didn't do much for me. He wasn't very interested. He was in charge of the VA committee for the Senate, and he just kind of poo-pooed it. So yeah, it was tough, and it was really tough on her. And also it got to the point where Senator McCain had to get personally involved.
It seemed that when you read her account, that although the empathy was there, I think they were pretty frustrated and getting a little pissed off, weren't they? And that becomes a motivation for everybody to see this through.
Right. The two things that really ticked them off was when we had documents. We had documents showing I was in, and they just flat out denied I was in. They just flat out denied. And then she even called me, and I called back to AFRPC, and they said the same thing. There's no proof that you were in. So that was very frustrating. And then the second part was when they thought they'd worked out a deal, somebody at way up pulled the plug, and then the DOJ had to get involved in everything else. So, and that's a lot of stuff that's never been talked about, but I felt, it was time to just put it all on record, just how complicated it was to get my settlement. And a lot of people have come back and said, well, it had nothing to do with the incident. Well, yeah, it actually did, because the settlement was based on documents provided from the incident itself, and documents that were provided to me from an ex or a retired CIA agent and stuff like that. So yes, it was. The settlement was based off of me being injured in line of duty in Rendlesham Forest.
The other part of this is, as all of this information finally gets compiled, and I'm talking about, let's start with the timeline, where it is put together in a linear fashion. Did you end up learning and remembering things that you didn't know about or have forgotten about over the years?
Well, yeah, the timeline itself is worth the book, besides all the other stuff that's in it, just because it's 40 years of interviews and everything that took place that Ronnie put together. So it took a lot of hard work and a long time to do it. And I mean, yes, a little bit, and there was a couple of things in there that I never heard about, because I hadn't purchased every book and every single thing that had been discussed about the incident. But, it's well laid out. I don't think you'll ever get another timeline like this, just because of the fact no one's going to spend the time to do it, which, Ronnie did, and, and verified everything that he did. And so anything that's in that timeline, anyone who wants to dispute it can try. but there's documentation to back up what was said and what was done at that particular moment.
Huge praise for Ronnie Dugdale. I can't imagine what is inside of his head, because it is so thoroughly laid out. And here's the thing, John, and I brought this up to you earlier today. We all know the familiar names, right? Peniston, Halt, and Bistinza, and these names that are always tied to it. And then you read through this timeline, and you see that the names are there. But there were way beyond dozens and dozens and dozens of people that were involved in this at every level over those 3 days. It's extraordinary. It's just not 5 or 6 guys running around in the woods, is it?
No, there was a lot of people involved, during and even after, and that's part of the timeline too. Not only the stuff that was talked about during, but what happened after the incident too, right up to almost present day.
Have you started to, I know that you've mentioned over the years where you've had spots of missing time, you just don't remember, you can't go back and you can't recall. Now that this is laid out, is it helping you to start piecing this back together? Are you remembering things now?
No, I mean, as far as my encounter both night, the 2 different times I encountered this phenomenon, no, I don't know what happened once I got close to it. And I still don't remember, like, the interrogation stuff that other people have claimed to have happened as far as being there and being interrogated. But there's been more than enough people that have come forward that have said that was there. So it's hard to dispute it. You know what I mean? As far as I must have been, I don't think so many different people would have different accounts, but I was there. So something happened to us, after the event where we were brought in. Never mind the fact that, some of the stuff I think we'll get into a little bit later with a certain OSI guy that has come forward now. And the whole thing that it describes where he actually got an OSI agent that was directly involved to send me an email and go into detail about what happened.
Now, I want to save that part for later,
Right.
but that is something else that, for me, I immediately called you and said, now, wait a minute here. I didn't know that this person was so involved or it chose to get in, or this other, and we'll get into that in just a bit. But for all the other UFO researchers out there, is this going to end up being the reference book for everybody to turn to because of the way things are laid out?
Well, I mean, Georgina Bruni actually set the standard. I mean, you can't cut down Jenny Randall's and that group that worked on this stuff early on, but they had their hands tied behind their back because so much was covered up as far as the witnesses hadn't come forward. No one was talking hardly at all. And the British government was denying anything took place. So that book, they did their best. Bruni brought a lot of witnesses forward, but I feel that I don't think anybody else will ever be able to do what was done here, because this covers a broad base of the timeline, FOIA, the weapons and stuff that were there were being developed or being worked on, the actual phenomenon that was there, the report by Wayne Keach that came down and looked at everything and stuff. So I think it'll be hard to do. And it's also written as an investigation, not as I don't feel anybody else has tried to investigate this. They just tell their story, but they don't really try to look at all the possibilities behind it for whatever reason.
And I think one of the things that is frustrating when it comes to Rendlesham is that so much of the information is scattered, right? There's a piece that's over here, there's a piece but it's never been, all put together in one place as a reference. And so for somebody like me who thinks that they know it all, when you read it all together, if I feel like I'm investigating this for the first time again. It's a very strange feeling.
Right, because like I said, the timeline sets the stage, and then you've got the work from David Clark with all the FOIA stuff that went on that a lot of people aren't aware of. The guy that did Project Condign is revealed, and there's a background on him and why Condign was done. there's a part in there where I did a FOIA. Well, it's more than one FOIA, but this is the one I picked that shows just how serious the British government were about this and how much of a defense nature it was with their response back to me on the questions that I had for them about the phenomenon based on documents that no one else has access to
now,
other than myself.
Right. And now when Condign was released, and I read through the report thoroughly, there was one spot in out of the entire report that stopped me in my tracks. And I want you to go back and recall the phone call. I called you immediately and went, okay, John, Condign is all good. It's all good. But there's this one sentence in the entire report that I think blows the lid off of all of this. And it was, and I'm going to quote from the Condign report. It says, the well-reported Rendlesham Forest Bentwaters event is an example where it can be postulated that several observers were probably exposed to UAP radiation for longer than normal UAP sighting periods, end quote. And I called you and went, John, and he goes, yeah, I caught that too. Now, looking back, the importance of that line in the Condign report cannot be stressed enough, can it?
No, and the thing is that when I caught it, no one else had caught it. When I got the report, when I got told to look at the report, and I looked at it, and I was suspect at the beginning was that they add it later, but I went back and was able to research back to the point where right after the Condign report came out, Isaac Coy posted it on a webpage that said that it was there, and no one knew what to do with it. It just died right there on the spot. And it wasn't until in 2010, I believe it was, when I got the report and I read it, and all the researchers had missed it. No one had caught that. I mean, let's be straightforward. Even Nick Pope never talked about it.
I couldn't figure out why, because it clearly states to me that the knowledge of UAPs, the contact with UAPs, the measurements of radiation levels with UAPs and their effect on humans was documented and being researched, right? I mean, it can't be any clearer. It's in black and white. It's right there for everybody, John.
Right, and never forget the frequencies that are involved, and also that a lot of the report, now I haven't tried to get the report recently, but even back when I looked at it, a lot of it was still redacted. Do you know what I mean? A lot of the stuff that was with the report is still redacted. So, and some of it's nation agreements. So, and that's part of one of the FOIAs I did based off documents that no one else has and questions that I had. And when I went straight to the MOD, they were, I think they were blown away. I got one response back was that I'd send them in. What I do is I put together a group of them every week. I'd send it in Sunday night, my time. They get it first thing Monday morning. And I'll never forget one when the guy comes back and says, well, I can answer this one real easy, but my colleagues are trying to figure out how they answer the other ones.
Well, and doesn't that suggest to the world that any question about UFOs or UAPs and the existence and the reality of that is completely erased, right? It's here in black and white. It's only one line in the entire report, but it is an admission right there that this is a reality. This isn't tinfoil hat stuff anymore.
Well, no doubt. And the big question would be, because he used UAP radiation, which, people can sit there and attack the report, and people have done that. But there was a part there where he talked about these frequencies and radiation that no one else, that hadn't been came up with. So what was he reading and what was he studying? Because he had access to MOD files that led him to believe that what we were exposed to was UAP radiation, number one. But the second part was that line and that portion of the report with some of the other stuff in it played heavily in my settlement with, as far as that was one of the documents. Billy Cox got to look at my settlement and wrote a report on it right after I got it. And he was kind of amazed that they admitted that, yeah, I was injured there in the line of duty with the incident. Now, they don't go into exactly what happened or how or why, and they definitely don't say, it was aliens, but it was one of those documents was the UAP stuff, never mind some of the stuff I got from the CIA guy and some other documents that now have been released to the United States Senate, that the McCain's committee got, but I had those documents beforehand, which at the time I didn't know they were classified documents, but they actually weren't. They were declassified for McCain's committee.
Now, it is the comments from Kit Green when it comes to radiation and the lack of the scientific study on this, that there are studies going on, but it's not as complete as it should be, and more doctors and scientists should be looking into it. Is this what Kit Green was referring to, this UAP radiation?
Well, yeah, but the crazy thing about Kit Green is that when he showed up, it was right after his citizens hearing in D.C., where we all went and testified in front of, that Congress, that mock Congress, the retired Congress people. And he was in touch with my lawyer almost immediately afterwards and met with him, and then came out and saw me in Sedona. And then that's when they flew in Kelleher and Nolan to try and get my blood for a DNA study. But the interesting thing is that he just openly, all of a sudden one day after my settlement, people were questioning it. We didn't even know it. He just sent Pat and I an email saying that I just posted a bunch of stuff on Above Top Secret about all this. And that was like, whoa. So a lot of what he said, we didn't even know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We weren't even aware of all this stuff that he laid out on Above Top Secret. We had some of it, and we hadn't correlated it all like he did so eloquently on that Above Top Secret site. So,
and I guess my point being that what Kit was referencing and what was in the Condign report, is it the same reference?
This guy's trying to get any information out of him directly is like pulling teeth. It's like, it's not that easy. That was his reference to what he was aware of working inside government. Do you understand what I mean?
I do.
And his background and why they were studying and wanting our DNA and different things like that. But he had worked at the Weird Desk for the CIA, and he was involved in all the technology being developed by Russia and our technology, and was involved in all that. Never mind, a little bit of it had to do with what back then were called UFOs. Now I guess the new word being used now basically is a UAP. But he was involved in all that, and he's been involved in that from forever, back in the 70s. A lot of these guys were. So directly, can I say 100% his analysis came from Condign? Probably not totally, because he probably had access to a lot of documents and different things that he'd worked on and was aware of.
Do you think that, I don't know how widely distributed inside the UFO circles, who's been exposed to the book so far? The release is tomorrow. But do you anticipate this yanking some people in line with not only memories, but maybe the testimony, the facts of the case are going to be forced into an alignment?
I'd like to believe that, but I don't know. I mean, these guys, some of them live in their own world, and they have no shame, in my opinion, because they'll get called out or they'll get caught, not being honest or truthful, or, not getting the story right. And they just stand their ground on it. So I'm not really sure. What I'm hoping for is a little bit different. Is that James is getting ready to come on next hour or half hour, but the technology stuff, I don't think a lot of people, Nick Redfern wrote a book review, and he had looked into some technology, and he had told me he was blown away by the in-depth stuff on the technology that was there that's been verified, that what they were working on. He wasn't even aware of all that. So that's what I'm hoping more, that maybe we'll get some insight more on what was really being worked on, then, and, where it's expanded to now. Never mind some of the stuff I saw while I was still on active duty that opened my eyes up. So
now I'm going to say this before we get to the break. I've gone back and forth with Rendlesham. I've been pretty honest about that. In that, is it aliens? Is it time travelers, right? Is it a government project? Is it a black project? I'm not, and I think that I've come back full circle, and I'm right back to where I was in 1995, man. I think it's aliens. I really do. We'll talk about more about that with James after the break, and we'll pick up with you a little bit later. But that's where I'm at, man.
Well, can I give you one statement before we go to break?
Sure.
Before Edgar Mitchell died, I was able to talk to him, and what he told me was towards the end of when I was, it wasn't an interview. I just got on the phone. I wanted to ask him some questions, and he told me that Condyne is what the majority of what we're dealing with is, the UAP and that effect. So he didn't say it was all, but he said it was the majority of what we were dealing with. Never mind that what I was exposed to was real and it isn't intelligent. It says that in Condyne, but it also was what the majority of what we're dealing with.
It's such a great read. I'm probably going to read this 2 or 3 more times. It's an extraordinary work, and you've got a lot to be proud of. Let's take our break right here. When we come back after the break, we'll be joined live from the UK. John's co-author, James Worrow, joins us. The book is released tomorrow. The links are over at jimmychurchradio.com, and it's a good one. Weaponisation of an Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon. I'll be right back after this short break. More with James Worrow, and John Burroughs when we come back. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Hello, my name is Billy Carson, and I am a best-selling author and the founder of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Together with my team, we have built an all-new conscious streaming TV platform designed with every family member in mind. If you have ever wanted to travel the world and attend lectures and workshops from your favorite speakers but weren't able to, look no further. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. There are dozens of workshops and lectures from speakers you know and love. We have also included amazing categories to assure that your consciousness is entertained and elevating on a daily basis. Amazing interviews, ancient history, ascension knowledge, wisdom teachings, documentaries, conspiracies, mysteries, health and fitness, conscious cooking, meditations, finance, yoga, and so much more. To start your free trial on any mobile device or computer, surf to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4, ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Again, visit ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn is the guardian of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer. Einstein, the ancient crystal skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roasted to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black Blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers. We're of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Very important show tonight. John Burroughs is here to announce the release of his new book, The Weaponisation of an Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon. We are right here at the 40-year anniversary of the Rendlesham Forest Incident. And now joining us live from the UK is John's co-author, James Worrow. James, how are you, man?
Oh, good evening, Jimmy. I'm very well, thank you.
It's hard to believe that you're like 8,000 miles away. You sound like you're right here with us in Burbank. Say hi to John. John's with us, too.
Hey, John.
Hey, James.
Hey, John.
There you guys. And James, let me start here first with you. How did you get involved with the book?
Well, the book came out of 6 years of being involved in John's case. I've been involved in the UFO as a hobby, as an interest, since I can remember. My mum and dad had their own experience when they were younger together. And from that point on, my mum and dad used to get UFO magazines and things like that, and I pretty much started reading them from the year dot, pretty much. And and to cut a very long story short, I had a few issues in my own personal life, and I had to leave my job and change my circumstances, and I decided to go and do something that I really enjoyed, and I went back to my interest, which was the UFO scene.
And did John reach out to you? How did the collaboration get started?
Well, originally I went. I treated myself after being a bit ill for a while. I treated myself. Me and my parents, we went to Woodbridge's Day to see a conference, because I've always been interested in that. And I've also used to go to conferences years ago. I met Peter Robbins and that, years ago, and Larry Warren and that years ago. And it's just pretty much, and then there was a big gap between getting married, getting divorced, and getting a new house and things like that. And I met John there, listened to him. I listened to Richard Dolan, and had a great evening. And I just thought, he's available on Facebook. I think I might try and help this guy. The thing is, John's presentation at the time stood out to me, because I'd never really seen anything like it before, or been that close to someone obviously speaking about their experience in such depth and such detail. And and it kind of struck a chord, let's just say.
Now, when you started to look at the technology that could possibly be involved with the Rendlesham Forest Incident, when you were there's a before and after period. Certainly before you co-wrote the book with John, and after. But what were you originally considering what Rendlesham Forest was and what they encountered?
Well, my own personal thoughts on growing up was through, I say, my own personal experience. What would, for instance, say, for instance, we're dreaming, and say, for instance, I'm having a dream while I'm hovering over, say, my mum or my dad. I wonder if they're awake. I wonder if they could actually see me, or, oh, maybe this is what some of these balls are like, or maybe they're people dreaming and they're traveling around at different points of space and time, and that may be. And it just, from that point on, I just sort of expanded this idea of energy and light, and from there into technology, and from pretty much back from the early 1930s or 40s all the way up to present day. And it's fascinated me as much as I hope it fascinates everyone else.
Well, and then we have, after you compiled all of this data, again, I want to stress with everybody, the book is written in two parts. We have the timeline in the front half of the book, and we have the technology side of everything in the second half of the book. Did your opinions change and evolve as you started to complete the book? Were you thinking one thing before and something after when it was done?
Well, much of the book, I would suggest, was probably already written. It was just a matter of putting everything together, all the jigsaw pieces together, and going, right, this is what I think we have here now. It makes sense to me. It seems to make sense to John, and obviously John is the one whose experience is we're talking about here. I'm not going to say that everything is 100% correct. I'm not going to, at the end of the day, it's information that's there that I've researched, and I know basically that without spoiling too much, there's going to be a few little documents and that I'm going to be releasing on my webpage soon after the book's released, hopefully in a couple of days. I only have use of one arm at the moment, unfortunately, my left arm. So I'll be putting that up, and that should hopefully give people more to justify what they're actually reading.
Now, so let's get to the nuts and bolts of what we're talking about here. When we talk about technology and what this may be, we're talking about what was seen and witnessed at Rendlesham Forest. What is exactly that we are talking about?
My personal opinion is that John experienced something rather inexplicable on the third night. On the third night, I've concentrated on the third night. There was so much has been written and so many, arguments, and yet the third night there was so much happened on the third night that seems to have been put to one side. So I thought, let's concentrate so much more on this. At first I was getting involved on both nights, but in the end I've just had to pull to one side and say, look, I'm just going to concentrate on this one side. I can't help both people at the same time. At least I can help one person, and that's my aim in all of this. My intention is just to help people,
And so back to the point though, what is the technology that you think was represented?
Without spoiling things, it's a phenomena that I believe is it's probably more linked to memories and something here more local to us than something, how I say, that's necessarily, like the other people's experience are obviously different, but this type of experience that John has is a type of experience that Jacques Vallée describes many times in his research, and it's a conscious-based kind of phenomena, and it seems to interact on a kind of a memory base. And again, without going into too much detail, there is a phenomena I believe so. Right now, there is a phenomenon, and I can't wait next year to actually go out and start, hopefully, if my health's okay, investigating it myself more locally.
Well, this is, how could the phenomena be so localized to John when there were dozens of people on the third night that were there?
Well, I think there's been referenced in previous shows and discussions. It seems to have a link. John's unique DNA seems to have some kind of link to this, and it's through that, I believe, that that memories come into the equation. Again, without giving too much away, I'm prepared to go into this a lot more once the book is out there, because people will probably understand a lot more then than what they will right now.
Yeah, and so, but what I am suggesting here is that are we referring to something that is interdimensional, something that is purely electromagnetic, something that is light-based, that is coming back and witnessed by everybody else, but is directly affecting John?
It's definitely a light-based phenomena, and it may actually go into an exotic form of light itself that is not well studied, but is something that is, I believe, being studied either privately or, secretly.
Does this light-based phenomenon, is it sentient? Does it have intelligence?
Well, that's a question in itself. Intelligence, for instance, is this phenomenon that John experiences? If you saw a phenomenon similar to that somewhere else, is it the same thing, or is it the same type of phenomenon but in a different form? Because what was mentioned by Dr. Kip Green was a mixture of frequencies emanating from an odd air form, which which is a combination of many different, which is an energetic form of, of particles, basically, and how these particles actually being energized. Well, again, you have to go into the book to.
Well, let me toss this over to John. John, as you're hearing this discussion, what is going through your mind when? I'm suggesting, I've read the book, right, where I'm suggesting that this phenomenon was intelligent or sentient, and is not just merely a trick of light or something else. What goes through your mind?
Well, I mean, if you read Condign, it says it is. So, the report spells it out, what some of it, what it's capable of doing and everything else. And I mean, yeah, there was something there. It reacted to us. But one of the things I just wanted to throw in when you were asking about the book itself, there's a couple of things that's not a total spoiler. The lighthouse probably was involved, and you have to go in and read why. And the other thing is like when it's like with Tic Tac, these guys are coming out and saying, well, we don't have anything like this. Well, that's kind of what we felt like when we were out in those fields. But once we've gone forward now and people say, well, what's new? Well, it's finding out what was really there, what they were really working on, how they were studying it, what they were looking at to make it into weapons and stuff like that. And one of the things is the blue lights, and James found that, where the actual blue lights were probably what Halt was seeing was plasma, that type of phenomena in the air being controlled by lasers. So it wasn't, the lights weren't being beamed, down, they were coming from the ground up.
And there's
and they were being controlled.
There's a few points in the book that I didn't know about. It's not a spoiler or anything, but where there were lights not only picked up by different airports and radars and reported, but the local police, there were witnesses, the civilians reports that were coming in, talking about the orange balls and the blue balls of light in the sky hovering over Rendlesham Forest. For it to be purely a light phenomenon, how do we explain not only the other eyewitness testimony, but the radar signatures that were picked up multiple times.
Go ahead, James.
Yeah, well, right now, what we do have and what has been unclassified is that we can actually create plasmas artificially in the air, a similar kind of energetic form in the air, and we can control them from point A to point B. So they will appear from one point and then disappear, and then appear somewhere else. And now to an enemy radar, that may look like an aircraft, but to what we realise now through what they've just literally unclassified, they can actually, and they're actually now can control these things from actual aircraft as well, you know, like little decoys. And I don't know if you remember a while ago about those large triangles that had these red lights emanating from the bottom, and they seem to be controlled by something. It sounds a similar kind of technology.
Now, and I've talked about this a lot on the show, and we know that on the American side of things, this technology is really being looked at right now and developed. There's no question about it. Was this technology available in 1980?
James?
Variations of this technology was being looked at, and concepts were being put forward by members of NASA, including Alan Holt. Actually, and the paperwork quite adamantly says that they was actually studying interactions of UFOs and their harmful actions on humans to see if we could get any information in regards to field propulsion concepts for vehicles to travel in interstellar space. And that was 1979.
Now, when we consider all of this, and then we go back and talk about the eyewitness testimony, especially on the third night, where this craft takes off. This craft is witnessed. There's a complete description of it. It's a bigger version of what was seen on night one by John and Jim Peniston. But that isn't plasma. Right? That doesn't sound like something that is originating here on Earth.
Let me jump in. Okay. If you go back and study the effects, if you look at Condign, and then you look at, like, I'll give you an example. Persinger was his name. He was a scientist that was working with this group that he did what they call the God's helmet. When you come close to this and you get hit with the frequencies, you may see something that's really not there. That's part of why the title of the book. This there is a phenomenon there. It's there. They're studying it. They say it in Condign. They're figuring out how to weaponize it, but it would be deception. It would be how to affect what you would see, whether you were on the ground and a pilot or anything else. So what you think you're seeing may not be what it really is. Do you see what I'm getting at? The frequencies and how it affects your mind and what you think you're actually involved with and everything. Like one of the things a lot of witnesses said, time slowed down, different things went on. Well, that would affect what you remember, what you see. Never mind the fact that several people have said they were interrogated, including Halt said we were, and what they may have done to us, after the fact on that too. Do you understand what I mean, Jimmy?
I do. And what I'm trying to, especially when you look at all of this information and how it's coming at you, I'm trying to triangulate all of the other things that went on, such as, beams of light coming from the craft down to the weapon storage area. And I'm trying to figure out how these two are connected, and I'm having issues with all of that.
Well, one of the things I can say, and then James can jump in on it, is that where we were, I was out there when some of that took place. Now, again, remember, it's just like anything else. If you've never experienced it before, you've never seen it, you have nothing to fall back on, you're going to try to correlate what you're dealing with what you're seeing as best you can. But also, if you're in this like EM frequency bubble and all this other stuff going on, it's the effect on the mind. And like I said, it very well could have been the beams of light weren't necessarily always coming from whatever it was. It could have been being shot up to control it. Do you understand what I mean? And if you're out there in that field, and the wind covers that pretty well in his report on where we were and what we would have been correlated by and what would have been used to affect us, it would alter your perception, which is exactly what you want, right? You want to be able to do that in the field of battle.
But how? Okay, and so you need to get all of this figured out in your own mind. And how does that play into the guards that were at East Gate, that were going to the guard, that were making the phone calls from the landline there, and that were seeing everything before the incident actually took place?
You're talking about the first night when I saw what I saw?
The first night and the third night.
It would just be okay. See, now we're getting into the book, but the idea would be, and James can maybe piggyback on this, that you had frequencies being beamed at us. The lighthouse was being used for that, and there were other things that were going on. So maybe James can pound on how this ripple effect could come in actually affect us. You know what I mean? Even from back there, we could have been affected by what we were seeing.
James,
you want to jump in on that, James?
Oh, spoilers.
Well, it's not that much of a spoiler. But
but the trouble is, Jimmy, once I start talking, you can't shut me up.
That's my job, James, and I'm really good at it.
Bless you. Yeah.
So continue. The lighthouse.
Sorry, mate. Right. Okay. The lighthouse. Through documents I've obtained that, again, I'm going to be uploading as soon as possible once the book's released. The lighthouse had small radar apertures attached to the tops of these radars. There was another radar further down the coast that had another one, and there was an installation inland. It created a triangle for incoming airborne traffic. Going over certain areas and things like that. And it's quite possible that using electronic countermeasures of something may have highlighted this ball of light and become like a trapped in the field, literally trapped in the beam. And as the radar is obviously maybe potentially moving to try and ascertain, it's actually moving the light at the same time. And eventually the light can get energized from this. It's like shaking a can of energy particles. You shake it long enough, it's going to either explode or it's going to shoot off somewhere. It's going to gain momentum. And that's pretty much what can, as far as the research I've made, can occur sometimes.
Now, before I let you go, James, especially on the third night when we've got light owls, we've got trucks, we've got people, we've got action, we've got witnesses, we've got a landed craft, people surrounding the craft. There were reports thinking about trying to get inside of it, right?
Well, this is the word craft is used, which gives the impression of a nuts and bolts type object. I'm not suggesting a nuts and bolts type object on night 3 at all.
Well, but that's my point, right? Where you've got a large crowd of people out next to that farmhouse and questioning what they are seeing, and some of the reports were just that they were talking about boarding the craft, jumping on top of it. They are seeing something physical.
The interpretation of what was being seen needs to be taken into consideration as well. There's been lots of toing and froing in regard to witnesses, and they're coming forward with certain stories that have ended up being the opposite of what actually has occurred as time's moved on, and as the years have gone by. And I think what stands out more in this book is, as I said, the people that were there in this book especially. And I think hats off to them, both John and Adrian, for doing what they did and stepping forward and writing down exactly, what they experience from their words, from their mouth, and no one else's.
Right. And now the book is released tomorrow, and you are talking about uploading more documents to your website. When do you anticipate that getting done?
Well, within the next 7 days. I've only got one arm at the moment. Unfortunately, my other arm, the tendons and that are absolutely shot. And as soon as I use the mouse on things, it's just agony. So, but a little bit, some frozen peas. I'm sure I can get a few hours in. I'm somewhere. I'm quite sure.
Yeah, thank you so much, James. And I want you to be safe out there. It's great talking to you finally. And just be safe. It's a crazy world these days, and the United Kingdom is just as nuts as the rest of the world. And so just be safe out there.
Thank you, and you too, and God bless you and your family.
You're the best, James Worrow. And I'm going to take a quick break. John, you stay right there. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. We'll be right back after this short break, and we'll continue the discussion with John Burroughs. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Do you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Old New England Soap is committed to producing the highest quality organic and goat milk soaps available anywhere. We take pride in using the purest ingredients and avoiding the typical shortcuts used by other soap makers. Because goat milk is what feeds your skin, we have formulated our soap to use the maximum amount of goat milk possible, 38%, more than double any other brand. Not because it's easy, but because our soap is always better. We are proud to offer you what we consider to be truly premium quality handmade soaps. What's more, our soap does not contain GMO ingredients, pesticides, sulfates, dyes, artificial colors, alcohol, or petroleum products. Try our new shampoo bar and pooch soap, and be sure to see all of the great scented woodwick soy candles that burn soot-free for up to 100 hours. Right now, save 15% on your order and get free shipping on orders over $45. Buy now at OldNESoap.com. That's OldNESoap.com. Not available in stores. OldNESoap.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
Telepath is a weekly digital newsletter filled with the latest paranormal news, trending topics, and fresh articles from some of the most popular critical thinkers in the community today. Stay informed on your favorite paranormal podcasts and live streaming talk shows. Interact with the Telepath and upload your paranormal story or pics. It could be featured in an upcoming edition. Sign up right now for the free Telepath newsletter at paranormal.radio. That's paranormal.radio.
Including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Very important show tonight. We've got John Burroughs with us. I want to thank James Worrow for coming in live from the United Kingdom. The book is released tomorrow. It's called Weaponisation of an Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon, and it is being released first on Kindle. John, when do we anticipate a hardcover version?
Well, hopefully the next week. We had to finalize some and iron some stuff out, and hopefully we'll have something up in the next day or two that you can pre-order it, and it can be shipped out within the next week.
Now, again, I want to emphasize, you and I have discussed this backwards and forwards for so many years, and I am constantly learning stuff, and there are so many little pieces that are revealed in the book that I didn't know before. And I'm just going to bring up a few of these, and I want to get your comments. One of the things that stood out to me in the timeline was the time, the actual time of the first night, where you remember it being around 3 a.m., Peniston is 3 hours before that. He thinks it was about midnight. And then the other witnesses have put the timeline together at about 2 a.m. Let's address that really quick. Why are we spread apart by 3 hours?
You know, I can't speak for Peniston when he first came out with midnight. He also had us on 12-hour shifts, which we weren't. But what I can tell you is I always remember it happened right around 3 a.m. And to cut to the chase, what happened was it was verified when the statements came out. When Halt released the statements on the set of Unsolved Mysteries, the statements showed it was 0300. And not only that, but there's a British police log that was uncovered through FOIA that showed that they were called out right after 3 o'clock. So
right.
Kind of right in that 3 o'clock window, yeah.
Yeah, and so the police blotter was one of the official things that everybody was able to go and look towards. Didn't Halt go to the police station to pick up those blotters?
Yeah, he went in the next morning. He used to come in around 5 or 6, between 5 and 6, and look at the blotters and then take them over for the staff meeting in the morning and anything that had happened overnight. And that's when the desk sergeant told him that we were out in the woods, that night. So yeah, he found out about it. Really, he was one of the first ones to find out about it that wasn't briefed as it was going on. So in other words, once it started, the command post was brought in, and they would have made some phone calls probably to I don't know if it would have been the base commander or the wing commander, most likely the base though. And then our command staff was notified on call, whoever was on call that night would have been notified what was going on.
Now, after speaking with James Worrow right now, we've got two different situations that we need to address. On night one with you and Peniston, Peniston speaks very directly about touching the craft. It's physical. He gave a description of the outside and the riding and walked around 3 legs. It was standing up, and that was a physical contact. And then we have night 3 where James is suggesting something else. How do we start to compare the two now?
Well, again, going back to, and it's laid out in the book pretty clearly, you have to understand that this phenomenon, when you get close to it, can not only affect what you're seeing, but what you remember. It's in the documents itself that Condyne talks about this, where when you get close to something, what you actually think you're seeing may not be what's really going on. And then it also affects what you remember and how you remember it. On top of the fact, then you have to add the other factor in is that what happened to us afterwards. What did they try to get out of us, or how did they try to change what we remembered, according to numerous people. So that's the factor that's there, never mind the technology that we were working on right there. And then there was something else we didn't bring up. Andrew Pike was a scientist that was down there working on the study of the phenomenon, and he has written a book about it. And they were they were provoking the phenomena during that time frame. They were doing different things to try to get the phenomenon to do different things because they were trying to study it. So you had a whole toxic soup of stuff that was all going on at the same time. And it just, how it affects what you remember, what you see, and what you actually, what went on. And we try to lay that out pretty clearly in the book, you know what I mean, as far as how it could have, and what it could have done. But there's no doubt that there's so many different memories, and that was one of the things that people attacked the case about. But different people remembered it different ways, times, and everything else. But it's really real, I think, overall, that people actually had different perceptions for that reason.
And so, are we suggesting here, John, that that Peniston's physical touch of the craft was a memory and wasn't a physical touch of the craft? Is that where we are going?
It could very well be, yes. And that's one of the things that Wynn, who's an engineer that did the study, says he thinks is what took place.
Now, let's get back to memories. There's a point where Colonel Halt literally asks you about your memory when he says, is that what you saw on the first night?
Right.
Right. Of course, that was on night 3. Now It is your memory coming into play here directly from Halt.
Right. When I got to get up to his party, when we got to his party, that was one of the things that he asked me, was what he had seen, what he was talking about, and what appeared in the horizon. Was that what we were dealing with the first night? Yes.
And now this is where things get a little bit sticky. But we've never spoken about this before, so let's just go straight there. And that, of course, is Adrian Bustinza and what went down on the third night, because Halt asked you to go forward, right, and to go and check out this craft, and for you to take Bustinza with you.
Right. It kind of was one of those things like, is that what you've seen? And I kind of said, I don't know. I'd like to get a closer look. So he allowed Bustinza and I to go forward. Yeah, he had Bustinza was on duty go with me. I was off duty that night.
You were off duty. You're wearing your civvies, right?
Right.
You weren't in fatigues.
No, I was not working that night. I went out there. I had no idea all this was taking place. Me and a couple other guys that were working the first night, because we found out something happened the second night, decided we'd go out there on the third night and go out in the woods and see if we could figure out what was going on, because it just didn't add up and didn't make sense. And when we got out there, all this stuff was going on, and we got held at different areas until we finally met up with Halt's team towards the end of the event.
Now, at that point, do you recall when Halt says he wants you to go forward and see if this is what you saw on the first night, how many people were around you at that point?
Well, it would have been who was with him. So there would have been, like, if I remember right, about 5. And then there were some people behind us in the staging area. And I don't remember exactly how many were back there. There was at least 2 or 3 that were back there behind us, because they had the Lidos back there. They had a truck back there and everything else. So there was the 2 guys with me, Bustinza, Neville's, Halt, England, and Ball is what I remember was there. And then there was a couple other guys back behind that I don't remember who they were.
Now, and there, okay. You and Bustinza started to approach the object. When this is going down, did you feel that you were moving closer to the object, or did you feel that the object was actually moving and coming towards you, or was it a combination of the both?
I think at the beginning we started moving towards it, then it appeared to come towards us, and then all of a sudden it was like we were almost like getting close to it, and then I don't remember anything until after I looked back, and Bustinza, who was running with me at first, went down to the ground, and then when it was over, I turned back and he was there, and he was kind of freaked out with what he saw, you know, and he describes what he saw happen to me.
Yeah, let's stop right there for a second.
Okay.
What did you see at that point?
Just the light. It was just the light, this huge orangish light, like you see, I want to call it an object, but it wasn't like a triangular object or anything like that. It was just there was a light. There was some kind of it was like a spear or a round. You know, it was hard to explain. That's what I'm talking about with. I never could understand how I could get close to something twice and not really remember it until we started doing the research. And then I kind of understood why, why I can't remember it for clearly. And then, I tried to draw it in the statement, which was like a orange ball or a colored ball with different colors, and there were blue lights around it. But yeah, that's close as I can describe it to you. And
how many feet away do you think you were at that point?
When I remember, the closest I got to it was maybe 6 feet or less.
Yeah, right, exactly. And this is just blowing my mind, by the way. But you apparently, and I want to again refer to your memory the best that you can. You grabbed the radio, right, from Adrian. From Adrian Bustinza.
When we were running towards it, yeah, I grabbed a radio and I cocked the WSA tower, and that was Rick Bobo, which we've interviewed before, and he's in the book describing what he saw. But he had seen something come down out of the sky and come down over the forest area that was shooting blue lights out of it.
Now, and so you call Bobo on the radio. I can only imagine the conversation, but do you remember what you said to him?
Yeah, we were seeking permission at that point to go ahead and approach whatever it was.
Even though Halt already told you, kind of pushed you from behind. Right?
Well, no, Halt just said to go out and to get a closer look. He didn't tell us to have an encounter with it.
Right. And what did Bobo say? Do you remember?
Go for it.
Literally.
Yeah, that's exactly what I remember him saying. Go for it, Airman Burroughs.
And I'm laughing because this is just the most amazing event like in ever. So what do? When he says go for it, do you guys break off in a sprint? I mean,
well, we were already kind of jogging, but then we took off as fast as we could go. Yeah, in the field. That's when Adrian went down. And then he saw what happened to me. So.
Now, Bustinza said, and I've heard this reference, that he felt something external, right? He felt that he was forced to the ground from something.
Yes, he did.
Now,
pushed him down and held him to the ground.
And held him to the ground so he couldn't move.
Right.
Now, at that point. You just said 6 feet. Were you now closer than that? Were you like on top of it?
Well, that's the point. I remember getting close to it, and then I remember him going down, and that's the last thing I remember. So, I went into it. So, and there you go. And he actually had part of his body go into it too. So.
And he described it as a fog, right?
Yeah.
And that's it as far as your memory goes. Does it just stop at that point?
It just stops at that point until after it was over and I was standing in the field.
And Bustinza said that, and I think this is about as critical as it gets. He says you disappeared, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And you don't remember. And when I say disappeared, I think what Adrian was describing is you were enveloped by this fog.
I phased out. He said the best way to describe it is the Star Trek effect when they transport.
Right. And you phased out, and you have, and at that point you don't have any memory of anything.
Nope, none at all.
Now, Bustinza then described blue lights. Again, we get back to the blue lights, right?
Right.
And he says that it turned into a triangular object. Now, the triangular description forces me to think about Peniston's memory of what he encountered, along with you, on the first night. Do you think that these were the same two objects?
Well, I don't know. I mean, whatever was there the first night, it could very well have been what was there the third night. Now, the big question is that since we were provoking it, where we're working on this technology, we're trying to figure it out. How had we developed some of the stuff that we were dealing with? Was that ours? Was it the phenomenon itself? Do you know what I mean? So who's to say, was it the exact same phenomenon the first night, or would it be the same effect on the mind and what happens? Do you understand what I mean?
I do. Now, how much time do you think elapsed between the phasing out, the envelopment of the light, and you and Adrian talking as you were walking away? How much time do you think?
I have no idea. I mean, that part I don't know. I just know that it was like I got close to it and then bam, it was gone. And then there he was. So that would be a good question for Adrian, to answer how long he felt we were gone. I don't think he put that in the book, but yeah, it was obviously, I don't know, a few minutes, but I mean, the whole thing that's strange is that, that's never been really covered deeply was that at 3:20, Redfern got a FOIA from the MOD admitting that the base had called Eastern Radar to identify there was activity going on. So it was between 03:20 and 4 o'clock is when we had our event, when it all wrapped up between 03:20 and 4 o'clock in the morning.
How stunned were you at that moment? Not stunned about the event. I'm talking about physically. I mean, how stunned were you? Because Adrian, he turns to you, John. He says, quite frank, he said, dude, you disappeared, man. Right? What? I can't imagine what was going through your mind at that moment. How stunned were you?
Well, it was. And that's what I tried to articulate earlier tonight. It's like at that moment, you're like, besides night one, now the third night, you're like, what the, you couldn't believe that it was anything possibly that we had any kind of knowledge of or were working on or anything at that moment. You're like, what is going on? You know what I mean? And then you just start going back and it's just like on night one, how do we explain this? What are we going to say? Well, that type of stuff, you just, you can't explain it. You can't believe it happened, let alone it did. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, this is unreal.
Now, as you walked back and got back to the group, do you recall anybody saying what they witnessed? Did anybody else besides Adrian mention that you just phased out?
No, in fact, that's the thing. Adrian and I both don't remember much from that point walking back until the next day. We don't remember. We don't have any memory of what took place after that.
Do you remember going to bed?
No. What I remembered was I was standing in the post office on the flight line Sunday night as the C-5 came in from Langley and landed on the airfield. And I watched the C-5 come in and go back to the restricted area and park. And that's the first thing I remember clearly from the point of walking back with Adrian until that evening.
Absolutely crazy. All right, let's move on to a few other subjects. Here we go. I read through the timeline. I read the book, and I read it again. And as I got to the end, and it happened to me the first time that I read it, and I went back and double checked, there is not a mention of Larry Warren. Explain.
Well, that's why we didn't get much time to talk. There is a little bit about him towards the end of the Ronnie's timeline about Warren.
Well, are you? Oh, okay. Are you talking about Richard Doty?
No, I'm talking about Larry. He does go into Larry a little bit at the end of his timeline.
But again, I don't want to dance around the issue, right? You read this complete timeline, and there is an absence of Larry Warren. All the way to nearly the end of you and Adrian walking away. There is no mention of Larry Warren.
Right, because I didn't deal with Larry on the first night, and I didn't deal with Larry on the third night. But he did kind of summarize some of Larry's stuff at the end of the timeline and left it up to the reader to decide. You know what I mean? As far as what Larry's part was in this, if any. You know what I mean? But there's no really discussion because I didn't deal with him on night 1 or night 3. I never saw him. I didn't meet Larry Warren until I was in California. Actually, I take that back. Phoenix was the first time, and then in California when they brought us out, they were talking about putting us on UFO Cover Up Live.
Now let's talk about Richard Doty. First off, how did Richard Doty and you first connect over Rendlesham?
Well, that was the interesting point. There's another guy from the UK that's in this. His name's Isaac Coy, and magically Doty showed up on Coy's site and started talking about some things. So at that point, I reached out to him, and I had a conversation with him, and that's when Linda and I were doing Phenomenon, and he actually came on at one point. But once I started talking to him, he knew stuff that no one else knew. And Doty's summary of this was pretty short and sweet. What most people don't even know. There was an incident prior to ours in the late spring, early summer at Kirkland. There was an incident a lot like ours at a weapons storage area and stuff that went down. And according to him, he was in D.C. and he was asked to review our report. So he's verified there was a report done, which they claimed there never was. But he was asked to review that report for similarities to what happened at Kirkland. And what he described knowing about what took with the event, there was stuff in there that no one else knew. So he had some kind of interaction with what was going on, whether, reading a report or, maybe he was there for all we know.
Now, why do you think it took so many years for Doty to reach out and make contact about this?
I don't know. This is all the whole thing with the To the Star stuff that started when Green showed up in my life. Then I met with some of them and Put Off and those guys. And then Doty, he didn't come to me. He actually made a statement on somebody else's page. And then I reached out to him. And in the book, he actually connected me with one of the OSI agents that was involved. And he wrote a summary of what went on, and it's in the book. And the other interesting thing is that this guy knew stuff that, no one else knew in the summary, and Halt verified that this guy was involved.
So now the email correspondence is in the book. Is any of that redacted, or is that it as it was sent to you?
It's exactly how it was sent to me. As far as the guy's email was never given to me. In fact, I wanted to follow up more, and I was told that the guy was not going to be allowed to, because it all of a sudden got hot. As far as this was all back a couple of years ago when all of a sudden there was more interest in Rendlesham, and To the Stars was really pushing it really hard and stuff. So there was supposedly some of this was being briefed to Congress. Our event was being briefed to Congress. And the other interesting thing was that McCain, who helped me get my settlement, was brought into all of this with other declassified documents and classified documents that haven't been declassified.
Now, there is a name, it's in the book, I'll just say it right now. This agent that wrote this summary, his first name is Don. Are you able to verify who he was? And is there a possibility of taking this a step further?
Well, the problem with me was that I verified this guy was there through Halt and the names and stuff that were in the email, but I haven't pursued it any further. No, I haven't, tried to track the guy down, because it was made clear to me that they were no longer going to be able to talk any further right now because of what was going on behind the scenes. And it really was at that point, there was committee meetings going on and different things were happening. So I would assume, I can't say for sure that they just didn't want to talk to me further, but it may be Rendlesham was introduced. And you would have to think it was because of McCain's background with Rendlesham in the first place. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do. And now this email, it's worth the purchase of the book right there. I was so concerned about it, I called you right away and wanted to talk about it. But there was one part of that email that stood out for me, and that is that there is a 13-part report written on Rendlesham. right? Which says to all of us that there is some serious documentation inside of the Air Force and possibly through the CIA and the NSA about Rendlesham that does exist.
Right, and there's no doubt, because one of the things that we did a FOIA on when we first started with this, we went to the State Department. The State Department said there was documents that existed, but it was Air Force based, and that the Air Force had to give us permission for them to release them to us. We went to the Air Force denied these documents existed. So our next option was to go to court, which actually we were getting ready to do on different angles. We were going to go to court on several different angles, and that's when the settlement came in.
I just got this tweet in. I'm going to get this in before the break. The question is, can you ask John if the incident was included on the blotter and if there happens to be a copy floating around?
Well, according to Halt, yes, it was in the blotter. It was in our blotter the first night. There was the second night was put in the blotter. There was incident reports done on all 3 nights and blotter entries. But according to Halt, they all disappeared. Now, what we've learned is Gabriel came in and took all the information with him to Ramstein, right after the event. So basically, most likely what happened was the stuff was all classified and taken away.
Let's take our break right here. Our guest tonight, John Burroughs, talking about his new book. Now, the book is released tomorrow. The links for it are over at jimmychurchradio.com. It's called Weaponisation of an Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. More with John after this short break. Stay with us.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on jimmychurchradio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Why is it we're not very good with our health regimen until it's too late? We don't put oil in the car until the engine blows up. When the body's out of balance, your health is not so good. Give your body some love. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Try our Life Change Tea, which cleanses you from harmful intruders. A clean colon is one of the ways to bring the body in balance. We also carry organic supplements to help you get where you need to go. So do your body a favor. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. You can even visit our sales page to save some dough. Does anybody call money dough anymore? Anyway, if you're looking for short, helpful health tips, go to YouTube and punch in Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now. So, log on to GetTheT.com, shop, get balanced, then learn some cool tips at Health Matters Now. You'll be glad you did. That's GetTheT.com.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRARadio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from River Moon. Just click on the River Moon Coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend. Let's face it, you've always wanted to do a sky watch and see your first UFO. Today, it's easy. Just get your own HP7 3B Cobalt Jimmy Church Edition night vision goggles from Hoffman's Optics. This is the same U.S. military system that I use, featuring a Generation 3 blue phosphor image tube. That's right, it's blue, not black and green. This is the only blue system in the world, and it's waterproof, lightweight, combat-proven, simple to use, and ready to go. Hoffman's Optics helped create night vision sky watches, and now you can see what everyone has been talking about each night from your own backyard. Just call 760-231-9929. That's 760-231-9929. You can click on the banners on our site or visit UFONightVisionGoggles.com. That's UFONightVisionGoggles.com. Go back, Lee Tepe.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRARadio.com.
When you're in the house for longer periods of time, you can see them flying or running across the floor. Ooh, yuck. They're unhealthy, gross, and disgusting. Bugs. I loathe bugs. We keep a clean home, but occasionally bugs show up. Well, I found something that is tougher than bugs. Orange Guard. On contact, it kills hidden bugs, including ants, roaches, and fleas. Plus, Orange Guard is a residual repellent. All of the ingredients of Orange Guard are on the FDA generally recognized as safe list. Orange Guard may be used around food, humans, and pets. It comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Orange Guard, available at orangeguard.com, Whole Foods, and Ace Hardware.
Telepath is a weekly digital newsletter filled with the latest paranormal news, trending topics, and fresh articles from some of the most popular critical thinkers in the community today. Stay informed on your favorite paranormal podcasts and live streaming talk shows. Interact with the Telepath and upload your paranormal story or pics. It could be featured in an upcoming edition. Sign up right now for the free Telepath newsletter at paranormal.radio. That's paranormal.radio.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, John Burroughs is here. We had James Worrow, his co-author, live with us earlier from the United Kingdom. The book is released tomorrow, and the links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. It is called Weaponisation of an Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon. And, John, let's talk specifically for a minute about the title of the book. I think it's very important here. What are we suggesting?
That they've developed technology off this phenomenon. They've been working on it probably since the 60s and 70s, and, that we were right there. Rendlesham took place right at probably the R&D phase, where they were working on all this and putting it all together. There was a story I was told by an Army colonel that said that, you were aware of the 70s, they had all the issues. The CIA had issues with, what they were doing with the debriefs, the LSD and all this other stuff that was going on. And they got caught doing it. And then they were supposedly, they went to Congress with it, and then the documents disappeared. But ultimately, they moved a lot of this technology over to England, never mind the fact that the radar systems were there and they had all the technology. And the other part was that most people don't know this, but Nick Pope's father was neck deep in all this. He was in charge of the technology division inside the MOD at the time of the incident.
The question of memory, as this comes into play, there is some discrepancy here with Halt directly in that centers around Adrian Bustinza, where Halt said many times that Bustinza never left his side. Are we at a point now where we can say clearly that was not the case?
Well, it started with he wasn't there. Adrian and I weren't there. That was when the story first broke. We weren't there. And then Georgina Bruni broke that by getting the tape, cleaned up, and Adrian's name was on the tape, and so was mine. So we were involved. But then he said we never were involved with the party. And then the whole saga with Warren through the years ended up being that he then came back and said Adrian was with him the whole time. But then in his own book, he now admits that Adrian and I went forward. So what's that tell you? In his own book, in his own words, he admits that he actually allowed Adrian and I to go to forward in front of his group. So actually,
yeah,
Adrian left his side, and the tape even didn't have Adrian with him all the time either. He was out running around doing other stuff.
Now, I've heard both versions of the tape, and I do remember being very confused back in 1995, where it seemed to be jumping around, right? It didn't match, and I thought I was listening to an unedited version of the events but it seemed to be. I don't want to sound like I'm beating around the bush, but I was hearing things about radiation, and then it jumps to something else, and then it comes back to. It's like you guys were, or Halt was bouncing around the forest and is in one place. Am I explaining myself correctly? Was the tape physically altered?
Well, there's two things. Number one, it was a tape where he could switch it on and off. It was a cassette tape, so he could have talked in it, switched it off. The other factor was most likely because there's piano playing in it at one point. The one tape was they probably did edit it, and it was probably. I mean, it could have been done, taken and edited, Wing Intel or whatever. But there's also a possibility they just edited it by taking it and playing it, off that recorder to another recorder and taking out certain things, because it's clear, and it's a little bit in the timeline, but there's more to it. Ronnie knows more about it, where there was stuff that was kept out that was never released on the tape. The tape actually was, edited however they did it.
Now, and Bruni was able to bring this forward many, many years ago, right?
Yeah, she cleaned the tape up. She got her hands on one of the original tapes supposedly, and then they took it in the studio and cleaned it up, and that's when you can hear things clearly. Because if you listen to the tape, Bastenz's name, and then you hear me, where they say we have Airman Burroughs and two other personnel at our location requesting a rendezvous with you. Ball jumps in and says, "Not at this moment. We'll let them know and they can meet up with us."
Right, and did that force? Because you can clearly hear Adrian trying to get his radio to work, or there was issues with the transmissions, and Adrian is struggling with that. Did that force Halt's hand?
No, what really forced Halt's hand on the whole thing was partly was the tape, but then also I got a recorded tape that he was doing an interview with Peter Robbins, and he was in a heated argument with Warren about who was there and who went forward, and he slipped up and said that Adrian and I went forward.
And what do we do with that? Do you think that is Halt's memory being messed with? And a further question is to that: do you think that maybe you got wiped? Oh, did I lose you, John? Oh, I think we just lost John Burroughs. John, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, don't freak us out like that.
I don't know what happened. It just faded. But what my point was this, okay? Halt has played the game, so some of it's not memory being messed with. In other words, he didn't admit to anything that didn't have to admit to until evidence became clear that he couldn't refute it any further. But I have met with him a couple of times where there was stuff brought up where it looked like he was struggling. Himself, he was struggling to try to put things together. So I would say, number one, some of it he intentionally has done, and he's tried to hide the part of what happened to Adrian and I forever. Some people speculated he was trying to protect us, which maybe was true somewhat, but then he would tear us apart. He wouldn't just not talk about it, but he would try to tear apart our character, and we were able to prove otherwise, and then the other stuff was he probably was messed with. If you look at what Doty said and stuff, Halt definitely was one of the people that was taken in and debriefed.
Yeah, he gets angry. He gets angry too quick. I'm talking about Charles Halt. And I don't understand why. He definitely, when he starts to get frustrated, he gets very defensive on this. And do you think that part of that may be that if this was some type of weaponization of technology, that means he was duped, right?
I think that's some of it. I think some of it he was read into because they had to have somebody to run point on this, because he wrote the memo. And it was clear that it probably was going to eventually get out. There was too many people that saw something that would talk about it. I don't know if they expected the News of the World to break the story like it happened, with the memo actually being released. That was always a strange thing, how the memo got handed over when the FOIA was done and they actually released it. It never added up to me because they have no problems holding back other documents, but they actually did release the memo, unless it was getting too hot and they had to throw something out there. And the memo was not factual. It had the dates wrong and a bunch of stuff wrong in it. So, that caused a whole dilemma for years of trying to put the stuff together.
Now, in this email from the agent, there's a couple other things that really stuck out to me, and one of them was when the CIA arrived on the scene, right? And all of that was in early January. It wasn't like, Christmas Day or the day after Christmas or the 28th. That didn't happen until January, and the NSA, I believe it was the NSA, other agents appeared out to investigate this in the middle of January. Do you recall any of that?
Yeah, the plane came in from Langley. I saw the plane land, and there was stuff going on out in the woods. The 3 swings I came back to work, I was stuck on the back gate, and they told me they put me there because I'd already been involved. And if I saw anything strange, just to call it in on the phone, don't use the radio. But so, yeah, there was all kinds of stuff going on. Now, the interesting thing is that, one of the things in the book, one of the things that Wynn goes into was the whole satellite thing, which you have to read the book, but Halt didn't discredit that. That was part of what was going on.
Now, why would in your best estimation, why would the CIA and the NSA come in after the fact, and especially if this was a secret program, the weaponization of a possible alien technology? Why would they come in after the fact? Shouldn't they have been read in way before?
Well, everything's compartmentalized. Now, the CIA would have come in because they also, I don't want to give it away, but there was something happened with the Russians. But also, the fact is that they would be looking at what we saw and what took place, who was involved in what was going on. The NSA was brought in because every time this thing would happen, there was an anomaly that took place. There was some kind of anomaly, like a message, or I don't know how to explain it, that they were picking up, and that brought the NSA in and put equipment out there, according to them, to try to figure it out. But I mean, the bottom line was probably the left hand wasn't telling the right hand everything that was going on. Do you understand? I mean, you had the British were involved, the Americans were involved, scientists were involved, and they may not have told them everything. And never mind the fact that Cobra Mist was shut down because of this anomaly. So
now, do you think Halt would accept being, for lack of a better word, a stooge in all of this and being played for so many years?
No, not at all. Not at all. He's a colonel, and he, and I think it's a combination of both. Partly he was read in, and he was to take point and, keep it under control as best as he could. And partly he had his memory altered too, so he didn't remember everything, and I don't think there's any way, because he's always denied that he was ever talked to. And the guy was out there in the forest, had an encounter with something, and has a tape, and he wants everybody to believe that these teams came in, and he's the one that's pushed it too, that they were there, they were looking at this, and yet nobody wanted to talk to him about it. That's just not realistic.
Now, what do we ultimately do with all of this, with the revelations of the possibility of this Tic Tac incident in 2004, with the Nimitz, and of course the Roosevelt, some of the recent stuff that has come to light? Are we looking at the Tic Tac as reversed engineered alien technology that's been an ongoing program going back to maybe the mid-70s?
No doubt that this is deception. I mean, there's been, like, I'll give you an example. I was doing something with Kevin Day one time, and he said, they would never test it on us, and that's not true. They do all kinds of things. All you got to do is go back to the time when they tested nuclear weapons on troops. Do you remember that?
Of course.
When they went out. Yeah, they went out and said, don't worry about it, and they blew up nukes, and they wanted to see how it affected them. So, yeah, they would test this equipment, and that Nimitz task force was perfect because they weren't armed, and they were training, so they were close to real.
Oh man, you got muted again. Is that you muting or
No, it just happens all of a sudden.
That is crazy, man. That just disturbs me. Okay,
but getting to the Nimitz, they would test this stuff, and you have to understand the area, what was down there. Alessandro, he actually in the first season started talking a little bit about it. They went to break, and then he never came back and said another word. But there's all kinds of technology down in those islands and stuff that we work with and stuff. But one of the things they said was, well, if we'd have been armed, we'd have shot at it. And what you're saying is true. The missile would have returned and blown up the aircraft. And I said, yeah, amazingly, huh? That would be perfect, wouldn't it? To be able to throw a decoy out where the enemy would think it was real, fired on it, and it would just come back to mama and blow up their own aircraft.
Now, let's get back to one point that I find probably the most interesting out of all of this is the moment where Bustinza, I believe it's Bustinza, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but they describe this craft lighting up, lights moving around on it, and then it takes off and splits into pieces.
Mm-hmm.
What do we?
Paul talks about that too. He said it blew up into different pieces.
And
that wasn't on the tape, but he's talked about that when he's talked about the incident.
Well, tell me, when we're discussing this, what is Adrian seeing? It's and I can understand some type of possibility of some type of projection, holographic image, but others saw this too as well. That sounds very physical to me, John.
Yeah, but it's not a hologram. James tried to hit on it when he was on. The phenomenon itself, or if we've created some or both, will change, will alter. It may explode into other balls of light and energy and everything else. So it's in the content report. It's in these documents that are in the book. It explains some of how it would happen and what would go on. And I mean, all you got to do is go back and look at the God's helmet, and they put this helmet on people and they asked them what they saw, and more people or not thought they saw God,
right?
Just by the frequencies altering their mind. So you got to understand that's what we were exposed to, these frequencies, this EM frequencies and all this other stuff. So it would affect your mind, and you see that's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah,
it would be
I'm trying to
not only our stuff, but the phenomenon stuff could do it.
Right. And I'm trying to get there. I keep going back to ET more times than not. But there is the reference from a few, and I think Adrian alludes to this, that he thinks there are reports of a figure or two outside of the craft.
Yeah, that was brought up. I can't remember who brought that up 110%, but they did see. But they actually, some of the people said, and Ball said on the CNN report, that the blue light had a life form in it. It looked like the blue lights were the intelligent being or whatever, and had light form in it.
And you didn't see any of that?
I saw the blue lights, but when the hypnosis that I did in '88, this is way before all the craziness today and all the other stuff, that it does come out that the blue lights were the life form or whatever it was.
Now let's actually close on that. I'm glad that we've come full circle. You did have hypnosis and you had regression therapy that was done. How much can we depend on that? How much do you depend on that?
Well, the thing is when it happened in '88, there's a whole story behind it. And these people that were doing it involved in this were the old guard that were looking at technology, and they were like working with HBO, which is now today's history. And you had different people doing investigations and working on all this. And they were looking at me and what happened to me. And they put me under hypnosis, and then the tape was done and it was given to some people in science, because I found out later some of them have gotten it, and they looked at it. And the bottom line is that what I said in '88 was unbelievable, but a lot of what I said has actually happened since.
Oh, well, now, how much do you trust what you said under hypnosis? Yeah, I know you've gone back and you've listened to the tapes, and how much of it can you trust?
All I know, Jimmy, is so much of what was talked about in '88 was like, what? And then now it's all this stuff has been coming out that backs up the hypnosis. So you tell me. I don't know. I've not released the majority of the hypnosis tape. Well, there's a 10-minute clip that Linda did at a conference that's online, and but it's just alarming to me that stuff that you looked at, just like when the incident happened to us, like there's no way it could be us, or our stuff, and then you find out later there's a lot of stuff we were working on at the time that we put in the book, but that the stuff that was being described in my hypnosis is actually coming to fruition with different things that are being disclosed, coming out, and everything else, to include the energy light form itself. And the interesting thing was they're now getting more and more into this, where that's what we evolved to, is the energy life form.
Now
we eventually leave our bodies and we no longer need our bodies anymore.
And
our consciousness.
I don't want to suggest anything like what could possibly go down in a regression session, but do you feel that sometimes the therapist can ask leading questions or push you in a direction to fit their agenda?
They could try, and that was the interesting thing. The first one in '88, the guy was trying, and I fought him. I basically told him he was an idiot. I did. It basically came out that he had no idea what he was talking about and everything else. It was really strange, Jimmy. It was like I was talking to the phenomenon itself.
What makes you say that? I don't know, John, if I could do a regression. And I feel that I don't think I could be regressed. Right? That's my own opinion. Did you go into that with that mentality too as well?
I went into it with what the heck's going to happen, and I had no clue that what happened would happen. I didn't think it would go anywhere to what did come out. And then I tried to do it again later with another lady in Arizona, and something that I was blocked in, because she got me to a certain point and I couldn't go any further anymore. But the first time I was able to go into more detail than I could the second time. But again, the whole thing with the hypnosis is this, Jimmy. If what came out was none of it ever happened or came true, I had to just flush it down the toilet. But you just can't make this stuff up. It's just like every time you think it's over, it's not. It's just like when I went to DC, I was hoping to get my settlement, and then the CIA guy shows up, green, and then I get to meet with these scientists, and I get briefed into some things, some papers and stuff that I didn't even know were classified at the time, and then all the stuff happens afterwards with them lying about when I was in and trying to say I wasn't and deny me stuff, and then the Department of Justice was involved. It just never ends, and you just don't have an ending to the book. You know what I mean?
And what about that moment of you disappearing in the orange fog with Adrian? Was anything revealed in the regression therapy about that?
We didn't get to that point, and that was the frustrating part. It was all the other stuff that came up prior to that, and then I just shut down. And then the next time when they were trying to go further, I just got to a point and it just stopped me. Boom, I'm not going any further with anything.
Are you interested in trying to revisit that moment?
No, because right now I would say my mind's been, I would say if it was done, it would have to be with the top-notch person, and my mind's been corrupted now. The first time it wasn't. Do you understand what I mean?
I do.
There was no internet and that kind of stuff. I didn't read the books. I didn't know that. It all flowed out. Then the next time it happened, I was exposed to some of this, but it just wouldn't let me go. So I would question a lot anything I said now.
Do you think
so much?
Do you think your injuries happened at that moment?
Yeah, I think it happened probably on night 3. I'm not saying something didn't happen on night 1, but night 3 for sure, what Adrian remembers seeing happen to me is probably, and that's why they have an interest in me, because of how, if I really did disappear and stuff, how did it affect me, my body, my DNA, and everything else.
Now, how are you today, man? In both physically, are things much better?
It goes up and down. I struggled, and I got the surgery, and then everything, and I got better for a while, and then it comes and goes. Do you know what I mean? I feel good some days, and some days I don't. I'm more dragged, but that could just be because I'm getting older too. So. And
congratulations on the book, though. And do you feel a sense of relief, a little pressure being taken off?
Well, what I do feel is I got my story out as it's unfolded, and I put together stuff that probably was involved and affected with the technology, never mind the report of the area by wind, and then the FOIA and a lot of stuff. So a lot of stuff's out there. And what I'm hoping is, again, maybe some people will come forward that'll try to put some more pieces together with the technology and stuff. That's what I'm hoping. I don't know if it'll happen or not, but if not, at least my story's out there from beginning to end, at least to this point. Who knows what's going to happen next? According to the Stars, there's going to be hearings and all kinds of stuff, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens in 2021. Are you, even you, right? Are you surprised that 40 years have passed? It's 40 years, right? 40 years. Pretty incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's amazing. I mean, it's just like, you can't, wow, I'm 60 now. Wow. Yeah, it is. It's pretty amazing. And, right now, everybody pretty much that was involved is still around. I don't know, some of the guys like Ball and stuff, I'd heard they had some health issues a few years before. And unfortunately, General Williams and Gabriel died. But yeah, a lot of us are still around. And, I think, Jimmy, I know a long time ago you wanted to get us all together. And, I just don't think it'll happen, but it would be nice that if people would start to own some of what really took place, what happened and what took place in this book. And well, I'm curious to see what Colonel Hall thinks about it. As far as, he was impressed by Wynn's report and some other stuff, but I'd be curious to see what his take's going to be on this. And if he'll open up a little bit more to what went on. He may not, but there's stuff there that should be looked at closer, and not only for the reason of our event, but where it's evolved to today and what we're seeing and what's going on right now.
Yeah, we were so close, weren't we? I worked so hard on that for about a month, and we were right there. We were right at the edge. We almost pulled that off, and it's not to say that we still can't do it in the future, but getting everybody together, sitting down, and discussing this, I think it's very important. And I keep stressing, Rendlesham is now. It's modern. This is living color. This isn't some sepia tone Western photograph from 1870, right? This is here and now, and it's just the most important case in the history of ufology. And thank you for everything, John.
And thanks for the forward, Jimmy, and thanks for having us on. And have a great holidays, and let's see what happens in 2021.
Man, it's 10 days to Christmas, man. Go knock one out. Thank you so much, John.
All right. Thanks, Jimmy. Have a good night.
You're the best.
Bye.
John,
take care.
Yeah, you too, John. Thank you so much. John Burroughs. And I am going to take a quick break. I am going to open up the phone lines right now, 747-228-2051. I said it before, I'll say it again. The last interview I've done with John Burroughs is always the best one. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I'll be right back. Stay with us.
Here, and you are listening to my boy Jimmy Church on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter,
but listening to Jimmy Church will.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I take Life Change Tea supplements every single day. It's what I do. Click on their banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black.
The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black Blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hello, my name is Billy Carson, and I am a best-selling author and the founder of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Together with my team, we have built an all-new conscious streaming TV platform designed with every family member in mind. If you have ever wanted to travel the world and attend lectures and workshops from your favorite speakers but weren't able to, look no further. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. There are dozens of workshops and lectures from speakers you know and love. We have also included amazing categories to assure that your consciousness is entertained and elevating on a daily basis. Amazing interviews, ancient history, ascension knowledge, wisdom teachings, documentaries, conspiracies, mysteries, health and fitness, conscious cooking, meditations, finance, yoga, and so much more. To start your free trial on any mobile device or computer, surf to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4, ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Again, visit ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
The older we get, the more important it is to stay active and healthy. I exercise regularly, eat right, but recently some new aches and pains have really put a cramp in my routine. A good friend recently told me about Angioprim. She said Angioprim is the original liquid oral chelation supplement, helping people since 2003. Chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, calcium, and cholesterol in veins and arteries that may cause blockages and lead to unexplained pain. Research shows the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that may help promote good cardiovascular health. After a few weeks of taking Angioprim, my pain was gone. Now I'm back and more physically active than ever. Find out more. Go to angioprim.com, ANGIOPRIM.com, or talk to a trained consultant. Call Angioprim right now, 954-882-7221. That's 954-882-7221.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What a great conversation tonight. The book, I've read it 3 times. You need to get it. You can pre-order it. It's out tomorrow, Kindle edition. You just heard from John. Hardcover in about a week. You can do everything over at Amazon. The links are at jimmychurchradio.com. You've got to read this book. I've opened up the phone line, 747-228-2051. And like I've said, every single time I have had John on the air, that is the best interview that I've ever done with him. And we did it again tonight. Thank you. Thank you, John, and thank you, James Worrow, for coming in from England. Let's go to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling? You're live.
Hey, Jimmy.
Yes.
Hey, Jimmy. This is Big Mike from Indianapolis, Indiana.
Hey, Big Mike from Indianapolis, Indiana. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing all right at work.
Yeah, right on. What'd you think?
Well, I didn't catch all the show. So, but I heard a story before. I had something, it didn't have anything to do with tonight's show. It was about Starlink satellites and the COVID vaccine. I wish this was quick conspiracy, because this would be my topic would be a good one for that one.
The Starlink satellites are connected to COVID?
Well, I was wondering if they since it's they're the one vaccine has RNA in it, and I was wondering if people get that injection when they Elon's been talking about putting Starlink all around the globe. If they put a nanoparticle in it and it's linked to 5G or above, it could change our DNA possibly. What do you think about that?
Oh man, that's I don't even have an answer for that. I would have to I'd really have to think about that for a minute.
Right. Well, I was also thinking about the this big UFO thing, and what if they're trying to inoculate us, so we either want to infect them or maybe they want to infect us.
Yeah, there's been and thank you for the phone call, Mike. You got some noise going on in the background, so but there has been chatter about that for many, many years inside of the UFO community about somehow some civilizations out there, alien, would be prepping this planet for them and for their genealogy and their makeup. I've had a few guests that have talked about that over the years. It's a frightening thought, right? Changing the atmosphere, changing oxygen and nitrogen levels, and moving things around so they could safely occupy this planet and they could replicate their own home planet here. That's a scary, scary thought, and I would not want to think that could be something that would be going on. As far as and thank you for the phone call, Big Mike, and my best to everybody out there in Indianapolis. But the part about Starlink, I'm going to have to think about that for a second. I'm not too sure. A global conspiracy like that, just like when we're talking about, and people really need to listen to what I have to say. When we are talking about huge conspiracies, where there are 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 people involved, and you're talking about something that huge and that big, something would be leaked. There would have to be meetings. There would have to be emails. There would have to be conversations. There would have to be, and something would be leaked. You just couldn't keep something like that, something that big, that hidden. Oh man, there's just too many employees involved, too many engineers involved with Starlink and SpaceX, that kind of stuff would be on the down low. And I'm not saying it couldn't happen. Of course, anything could happen. Anything is possible. But having something like that huge, I don't know. And that's getting into some technology that I don't even think exists. But and then again, I'll say it, anything is possible. But if you have a conspiracy that big, that widespread, you're gonna have a leak. You're gonna have some kind of proof. Let's go back to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hey, Jimmy, it's Max again, and I appreciate you giving me a little chill pill last week. Yeah. But based on what you just said, there is a bunch of leaks coming out, and it's being thrown out there all over the place on that parlor right now. A little bit more on Twitter here and there, kind of coming through the grains, but it's kind of getting filtered. And the biggest thing, the most important thing I have to say right now, since we have the fader knots on, it's super important right now. Before they log off any PC or even their like MacBook or anything tonight, make sure that they disable their Wi-Fi connections or unplug from their Ethernet. All right. There's a big hack going on. There's been a couple of them in the last few days, and they need to make super sure that they let everything boot back up before they reconnect. because there's some automatic updates that got pushed. Even if you have your updates where you can pick them yourself, they circumvented that stuff somehow. And I've had 3 different hard drives out of 3 different computers I've had to throw in just to be up online. So make sure they got their VPN up and then plug in, or right there, the first thing they do when they plug in. But there is some concerted efforts going on right now, man.
Well, Max, do you remember Cambridge Analytica?
Yep.
Okay, and do you remember the outrage? Were you angry when you found out that Cambridge Analytica was acquiring your data through Facebook?
Oh yeah, that was huge.
It was huge, right? And Cambridge Analytica was using that data to manipulate different political environments with a couple of 100 elections around the world, and 60 different countries around the world, political situations, and how outraged we were about Cambridge Analytica and their nefarious use of your data.
I think I remember even you put a post up saying that they built that platform, and I was hesitant at first to use it.
Well, doesn't it concern you in the slightest that Cambridge Analytica and the founders of Cambridge Analytica founded Parler?
I do see some parallels there, but I think the mass awakening of everybody that was allowed to happen as a result is the main plus out of the situation. And
I think, but that mass awakening that you're talking about is manipulation. Doesn't that concern you that there's somebody messing with your head?
I would say the possibility exists there, but the opportunity to go and vet all of the things that you see on there and not just eat it like candy is what has been being pushed out there.
Well,
and
but
that in itself is a plus.
You do understand what I'm suggesting here. These are facts. These are facts.
Yep.
Okay, these are facts, and that in of itself should raise every alarm bell for you to just sit back and go, well, somebody wants to mess with people, and that's where you just need to, your discernment needs to really be on high when you look at who is behind and why would they do it, right? And this is the thing, and anybody that's listening to my voice right now, I've made this very public. Parler does not have any income. Zero income, no advertising, no money coming in, nothing. So why do it? Why do it? What, you're just want to just spend millions of dollars for no reason? No. You have to stop and just wonder the money behind it and what is actually going on. That's all that I'm saying. Yeah. I'm suggesting to everybody to just go squinty-eyed, man, because if you think that you're being messed with and being pulled down a road, then you've got to ask yourself why and who is behind it. That's all. Don't go in with both feet. You cannot do that.
I've had to pull myself out of that quite a bit, and you're right. I mean, there have been multiple there's multiple agendas going on on all social media, for it.
That's right.
Reality.
There's no question about it, and they bear such a huge responsibility for the status of not only this country but the world. And that's all of social media and the media. And they all of social media and the media in general has the ability to tone all of this stuff down, to bring down the temperature, to pull this thing back. They have the ability to do that, and they are not doing it. I am shocked.
Exactly.
I am shocked. I told everybody, and I mean this from the very bones of my soul, that in late January you will hear from me. I will spell everything out. Until then, let's let this thing play out. Let's see what actually happens. All right, but there are going to be some people out there, hundreds of thousands, maybe even a bigger number than that are going to have their hearts broken, and they are going to question everything around them. And I'm not saying anything further right now. I'm just going to let it play out. There is nobody that enjoys conspiracy more than me. There's nobody. I enjoy it, but I don't commit myself. You can't do.
Yeah, they can't be committed. They can't be committed to just one pathway. I mean, there's always another possibility that's just going to spring its head out of there, and maybe that's even acceptable to them, but they're not thinking of it yet. So you're right on point with that, Jimmy. I appreciate your time on the show, and I always love calling in and talking to you.
Thank you so much, Max. And like I said, just be squinty-eyed, man. Squinty-eyed. And you know what I said the other day, and I meant this. If somebody out there, something is telling you that you can't trust your family or you can't trust your friends and that they are wrong and they are evil and you need to trust them, that right there, that's where you pump the brakes. That's where you pump the brakes, man. That kind of divisiveness. No. So just go squinty-eyed and you'll be healthier. That's all. Max, enjoy the rest of your night, my man. Thank you so much.
If I could say one more thing, an apology to Gene. Gene, I kind of screwed up on Twitter the other day, and I apologize. But have a good night, everybody.
Not a problem, man. I'm sure Gene understands. We'll see you tomorrow night, Max. You too, man. Thank you so much. Yeah. Max is the best. Let's go back to the phones. And, man, the phone lines are lighting up all of a sudden. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hi, Jimmy. It's Deb.
Hey, Deb. How are you?
Very good. You look much better tonight, I have to say.
Yeah, right on. I
feel like you're feeling better.
5% better.
Well, we got to get up to 100% pretty soon here.
We'll see. Fingers are crossed. What's on your mind?
Yeah. Well, you were just addressing Parler, and so I wanted to comment on that since you guys were talking about it. I would say that at this point, between Parler and Twitter, Twitter has demonstrated to me very clearly that I can't freely speak on there. They edit a lot of what we put. They pull it. They they put, things on the president's tweet saying, this is disinformation, take this with a grain of salt. So I've already been, convinced by Twitter that I can't trust them. As far as Parler, I've just started to use Parler. And so far it's been a good experience. Now, if it gets to a point where they also censor us, then there's history. But the mainstream social media platforms have proved to the people at this point that they can't be trusted. Anything, they're censoring like crazy over on YouTube, anything, and I won't say the words on your channel because I don't want to get you deplatformed, but what you talk about as far as the conspiracy going on, if you bring up those words, they pull the video and they deplatform people. They take down their channels. So they've proven to the people too that they can't be trusted. So, as far as information, I don't rely on those platforms. I rely on my information through credible news channels like Newsmax and OAN, and there's another one, I can't remember the title, and then there's like Steve Bannon's War Room, and there's a lot of credible sources out there. And I also watch the hearings on those channels live with each state and all the witness testimony and what's been happening, all the proof coming forward, so I know it's not a conspiracy. And so I feel like I'm getting my resources my information from credible resources and I don't want to make this a political call. I
well,
don't
you've
want to
made
go
it
there.
a 100% political
Well,
call. But
I'm addressing what you guys have been talking about, what you've been bringing up. So that's all I wanted to say, though, about it. I mean, I don't feel like because of those resources, I don't feel like I'm being manipulated by algorithms at this point. But I understand your point about, we've talked about the algorithm thing and the social dilemma, and I've told you we've talked about that, and I've watched it, and I totally get your point.
my point is a simple one. Cambridge Analytica owns Parler.
Right.
And if you want to trust that's and if you feel that is what you need to do, then go and do it. That's it. My point is a very, very clear one. And the outrage that was behind Cambridge Analytica and what they were doing and the money behind it and the objectives behind it pissed everybody off, including yourself. And now you say, well, that doesn't matter.
No, I'm not saying it doesn't matter.
It matters. It matters.
You're right. It does matter. And like I said, I've just started, logging on over there because I'm not deplatformed. I'm not censored. If I suspect anything like that's going on, I won't trust it, and I'll close my account over there. The point is, where do we go for our information where we feel like we can trust the information, where we don't feel like we're being lied to? And that was the point I was trying to make, is I have resources that are not on the internet, that I'm watching live hearings on TV, on channels that don't edit it, and are letting the truth out. And so there are good resources out there.
Right. It's your truth. Okay. All right. Okay. Deb, enjoy the rest of your night, and we'll see you tomorrow.
I'm so glad you're better, Jimmy. Seriously.
Thank you, Deb. Have a great night.
Okay. You too, dear.
Right
Bye.
on. Right on. Be careful, folks. Be very, very careful. Be very careful. And let's go back to the phones. Let's see who's up next. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Yeah, how you doing, Jim? Steve from New Jersey.
Hey, Steve from New Jersey. How are you?
Good. First time caller, long time listener. It's an honor to be talking to you. It was great to hear John Burroughs on tonight. It's really been great to see him, even after all these years, keep his mind open and realize that there's a lot we all continue to need to look at. But speaking of Rendlesham, since he was on tonight, I was wondering, as I continue to listen, and I'm sure you've been following all the developments going on at Skinwalker Ranch and Erica Luke's, but I'm starting to hear a lot of the theory put out there that Rendlesham has this phenomenon going on that's being continually looked at, and I feel like there's a lot of parallels being drawn between Skinwalker Ranch and the Rendlesham as far as possible disinformation. And I just wanted to see if you had any thoughts about that. I can take my call.
Oh, well, let me throw this back to you, Steve. What do you think the parallels are?
Well, it seems like there's a big push to continually look at this never really defined but always called phenomenon. Although these areas with high phenomenon seem to be very closely linked to military installations, and I can't help but draw the parallels between the two.
Well, what I'm waiting for when it comes to Skinwalker is something, right? I haven't seen, heard anything definitive come out of Skinwalker. Heard a lot of stories. There's definitely that part of it there, but there isn't anything for me. I'm waiting for it, and I hope that something happens. I haven't seen anything definitive come out of Skinwalker. And so until that happens, I'm not sure about the parallels that could be drawn. Does that, I'm not suggesting that there isn't high strangeness at Skinwalker. I've been to several locations around the United States where there are crazy things that happen. I definitely feel that it's location based, and it has to do with the grounds, or it could even be historical. It could be spiritual. It could be something that's more interdimensional. something that is vortex related. I certainly believe that. I haven't seen that come out of Skinwalker. The difference between Rendlesham and everything else is that Rendlesham is documented with witnesses that have come forward. We have a paper trail that's a mile long. We have so much that is there with Rendlesham, and it's a military Air Force based incident through the military that is modern. It's a fascinating
Jim,
case.
Yes, absolutely. And again, that brings me back to the parallels. As you brought up, most of, if not all of these witnesses from Rendlesham are all military witnesses. Whereas at Skinwalker Ranch, all of the witnesses that we at least know of that have seen this high strangeness are also at least being outsourced by the government through Bass or Robert Bigelow.
Absolutely. And I've always wondered about that connection. There's no question about it. I'm just waiting for that, Steve. I would love to see a piece of video. I would like to see a UFO over Skinwalker, something that's landed, something, radar, something. I've heard that there are those videos. I haven't seen them. I've heard that there are photographs. I haven't seen them. Nobody has, Right. But it's totally fascinating. I've never been there. Okay? I've never been there. I would like to go up possibly one day and check it out and spend some time there to see what is happening. There's no question about it. Rendlesham, totally different situation. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say there's certainly a lot of long-term reports going on from within that basin. Again, just with, taking with a grain of salt always because of the nature of where a lot of the reports seem to stem from. And again, with Rendlesham being the same issue, with very close military ties.
Yeah. What I don't want to see Skinwalker turn into, and I'm right at the end of the show, Steve, so I'll say this really quick. Yeah, great phone call. What I don't want to see Skinwalker turn into is like the Curse of Oak Island, right? Where there's no resolution and it just continues and continues and continues without having anything brought forward. That's what I don't want to see Skinwalker turn into. And
300 years and 10 seasons and still digging, right?
Steve, great phone call, my man. Thank you so much. We love first-time callers around here.
Thanks a lot, Jimmy. Keep up the good work, man.
Enjoy your night. And with that wraps another episode of Fade to Black. Want to thank John Burroughs. Great interview again tonight. And, of course, James Worrow coming in live from the UK. The book is going to be released tomorrow. The links for it are over at jimmychurchradio.com. I can't say it enough. I've read it 3 times. I'm going to read it 3 more. Fade to Black's executive producers Rita Camurian. Show is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy. SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast owned and copyrighted 2020 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. Tomorrow night, right here, Billy Carson, his new book, Woke Doesn't Mean Broke. Until tomorrow night, everybody be safe. Fade to Black.